What if I told you that the richest people in the world are also the most in debt, that they borrow billions, not because they're broke, but because it makes them richer? Sounds backwards, right? But it's true. By the end of this video, you'll understand the one difference between their debt and yours, and it could change how you think about money forever. You've probably been told debt is bad, avoid it, pay it off as fast as you can. That's what I heard growing up. And for most people, that advice makes sense, because most people use debt to buy things that lose value. A new car, the latest phone, a vacation you can't afford. That kind of debt is a trap. It takes money out of your pocket every month, and it never gives anything back. But rich people, they use debt completely differently. They borrow to buy things that grow, things that put money in their pocket. Real estate, businesses, stocks, same tool, opposite outcome. In this video, I'm going to show you the difference, and I'll give you a simple rule to know if your debt is helping you or hurting you, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And here's the thing, the sooner you get this, the sooner you can start building wealth instead of just working for your payments. Let's start with the basics. There are two kinds of debt, good debt and bad debt. Good debt is money you borrow to buy something that goes up in value or generates income, like a rental property. You borrow to buy the house. The rent pays the mortgage, and over time, the house goes up in value. That's good debt. Bad debt is money you borrow to buy something that goes down in value, or just costs you money, like a car. You buy a car for $30,000. It's worth $25,000 the second you drive it off the lot, and it keeps dropping. That's bad debt. The problem? Most people only have access to bad debt. Credit cards, car loans, payday loans. Rich people have access to good debt. They can borrow millions to buy apartment buildings. You can borrow $5,000 to buy a used Honda. Same tool, opposite outcome. Think of debt like a shovel. In the hands of a miner, it digs for gold. In the hands of a prisoner, it digs a deeper hole. The shovel doesn't care. It's what you do with it that matters. And the same is true for your money. If you borrow to buy a liability, you're digging yourself into a hole. But if you borrow to buy an asset, you're digging for gold. The choice is yours every time you sign a loan. Now, why do rich people love debt so much? Because of something called leverage. Leverage is using borrowed money to make a bigger bet. Imagine you have $10,000. You can buy $10,000 worth of stocks. If the stock goes up 10%, you make $1,000. That's a 10% return. But what if you could borrow another $90,000? Now you control $100,000 of stocks. If it goes up 10%, you make $10,000. You paid back the $90,000 loan, and you keep the profit. That's 100% return on your $10,000. That's leverage. It amplifies your gains, and it amplifies your losses too. That's the risk. But rich people use it carefully. They don't gamble. They use leverage on assets that are likely to go up, like real estate, which has historically gone up over time. The key is that the asset you buy with borrowed money should generate enough income to cover the loan payments. That's how you build wealth with other people's money. Leverage is like a lever in physics. A small force on one end moves a heavy weight on the other. But if you push the wrong way, the lever can snap back and hit you. So you need to know which way to push. And that means understanding the asset you're buying. But here's the thing. Debt can also get out of control. Economists measure this with something called the debt-to-income ratio. It's the percentage of your income that goes toward paying debts. In the early 80s, the average American household had debt that was 56% of their income. By the end of 1994, that number had jumped to 81%. That means for every $100 you earned, you owed 81. And that was decades ago. It's probably higher now. When debt grows faster than income, it becomes a problem. You have less money to spend on things you need. And if the economy takes a hit, you're stuck, because you still have to make those payments. That's what happened before the Great Recession. In advanced economies, household debt-to-income ratios shot up by an average of 39 percentage points in just 5 years, reaching 138%. That's more than a year's income in debt. And when the housing market crashed, millions of people were wiped out. Imagine filling a bathtub. The water is your debt. The drain is your income. If you keep the tap on and the drain is slow, eventually the tub overflows and floods the house. That's what happens to your finances when debt outpaces income. You need to keep the tap in check and make sure the drain is fast enough. So, who actually has all this debt? You might think it's the poor, struggling to make ends meet, but the data says otherwise. The Federal Reserve has shown that debt is concentrated among higher income households. Wealthier people hold more debt, but they also hold more assets. They borrow to buy homes and businesses. That's why their net worth grows. Net worth is what you own minus what you owe. If you own a house worth $300,000 and you owe $200,000 on the mortgage, your net worth from that house is $100,000. As you pay down the mortgage and the house goes up in value, your net worth grows. Meanwhile, someone with a car loan and credit card debt has negative net worth. They owe more than they own. The rich use debt to build assets. The poor use debt to buy liabilities. And that's why the gap keeps widening. It's like a game of Monopoly. The rich player buys properties, collects rent, and buys more. The poor player lands on their properties, pays rent, and sells their houses just to stay in the game. Same board, same dice. But the rich player's money works for them. The poor player's money just flows out, and the rich player's debt is an investment. The poor player's debt is a drain. But here's the dark side. When everyone uses debt, the whole economy becomes fragile. Before the Great Recession, in countries like Denmark, Iceland, Ireland, the Netherlands, and Norway, household debt peaked at over 200% of income. That means people owed twice as much as they earned in a year. When home prices fell, they couldn't pay. Banks failed, people lost jobs and savings. The lesson? Debt is a tool, but it can also be a weapon that turns on you. The rich can handle risk because they have assets to fall back on. But if you're just starting out, taking on too much debt can be devastating. That's why you need to be smart about it. Use it to buy assets, not liabilities. And never borrow more than you can handle. Think of debt like fire. Used carefully, it warms your home and cooks your food. Used carelessly, it burns the house down. The rich have fire extinguishers, their assets. You might not have one yet, so be extra careful with the matches. And that means knowing your limits. Don't let your debt-to-income ratio get too high. Keep it manageable, because once the fire gets out of control, it's hard to put it out. Let me tell you a story about two people. Meet Alex and Jordan. Both are 25. Both earn $50,000 a year. Both want to build wealth. Alex decides to buy a brand new car. It costs $30,000. He takes out a loan. His monthly payment is $500. The car loses value every year. After 5 years, it's worth maybe $15,000. Alex has paid $30,000 in payments, and he owns something worth half that. His net worth is negative. Jordan does something different. Jordan saves up a down payment and buys a small rental property. The house costs $200,000. Jordan puts down $20,000 and borrows $180,000. The rent from the tenant covers the mortgage and the taxes. Over 5 years, the house goes up in value. Maybe it's worth $250,000 now. Jordan owes about $170,000 on the mortgage. So Jordan's equity, what he owns minus what he owes, is $80,000. Same starting point. But Alex is poorer. Jordan is richer. The only difference? What they did with the borrowed money. It's like planting a tree. Alex bought a cut flower that died in a week. Jordan planted a sapling that grew roots and kept growing. And that's the core of it. The direction of the debt decides the direction of your wealth. Now let's fast forward. Alex and Jordan are now 45. Alex has continued to buy cars. He's always had a car payment. He's spent thousands on interest. He has some savings, but not much. Jordan has kept buying rental properties. Each one generates income. That income pays for the next down payment. Jordan's net worth has snowballed. The properties have appreciated. The rents have gone up. Jordan now owns 5 properties. Each one is worth more than he owes. His net worth is over $1 million. Alex? He's still living paycheck to paycheck. The difference isn't intelligence, it's the direction of the debt. Alex's debt flows out. Jordan's debt flows in. And over time, that difference compounds. It's like rolling a snowball downhill. The longer it rolls, the bigger it gets. But you have to start with the right kind of snow. If you start with a lump of ice, it won't stick. You need the sticky, wet snow that packs together. That's the asset that generates income. The more it rolls, the more it picks up. And before you know it, you've got an avalanche of wealth. Alex's snowball melted in the sun. Jordan's kept growing because it was built on assets that appreciate and pay rent. And that's the power of good debt. It compounds in your favor. Bad debt compounds against you. Every dollar of interest you pay, is a dollar that could have been working for you. So what can you take from this? First, understand the difference between assets and liabilities. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. Second, if you're going to borrow, borrow to buy assets, not things that lose value. Third, watch your debt-to-income ratio. Don't let it get out of control. Fourth, start small. You don't need $1 million to buy a rental property. You can start with a duplex or a small house. And finally, be patient. Wealth building takes time, but if you use debt wisely, you can build a snowball that grows for decades. The key is to make your debt work for you, not against you. And that means every time you consider borrowing, ask yourself, is this an asset or a liability? Will it put money in my pocket or take money out? If it's the latter, maybe you should wait, because the right debt can change your life. The wrong debt can ruin it. If this video changed the way you think about debt, hit the subscribe button and like the video if it helped you. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me one thing you're going to do differently with your money this week. Maybe it's paying off a high-interest credit card, or maybe it's starting to save for a down payment. Whatever it is, share it. I read every comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.